network marketing, the only way I make money is I make money based off the amount of product volume that I move. Whether it's I move it personally or my team of marketers collaboratively, we move it together. I make retail money off of what I move, I make wholesale money off what I move, and I make royalty money off what my team moves. But if there's no product moving and there's no customers being taken care of, there's big money being made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think those are the biggest misconceptions, but I can't let just network marketers be victims and say, well, they were just misunderstood, because I don't think that's completely true. I think it's a lot of it's self-imposed over the years. But I think that's being cleaned up in the industry, to be honest with you, over time.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We are back with another one. Welcome to the Let's Move Up podcast, where the mission here is to help you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to equip you to move up in different aspects of your life, whatever it is that you need, whether if it's career, whether if it's financial, whether if it's relationships, mindset, mental, all of that. We're just here to help. So, man, today I got another special guest. I feel like every week it's another special guest. I mean, everybody that I bring to the show, I try not to have just anybody, but again, somebody special, somebody with a story, somebody that has something to share with you all, you, the listener, you, the viewer, because again, this podcast, we want to add value. We want to give you value. And so I got a good friend of mine who I hope and I know that he's got a lot of value to give you guys today. So welcome, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Cliff, thank you so much, man. What a humbling experience. This is the first time, one, I've ever been asked to be on a podcast, but two, obviously being on one. But being that it's from Cliff Bunville, of course, the answer is going to be yes. So, man, I'm humbled and appreciate the opportunity to come on and share and just be a part of this. I've been following you and what you're doing on social media, what you're pouring into people. I'm just, again, grateful to be a part of that, because you're really crushing it, man. And you're providing a lot of value in a lot of lives. So keep doing that.
And I appreciate that, Mike. Appreciate it. So let's start off. Can you tell the people exactly who you are and what you currently do?
Sure. Well, my name is Michael Ropp. I go by Mike. My wife, Sammy, and I live in a real small town in Ohio. It's called Enid, Ohio. Talking 2,500 people in this little community. But it's really, really amazing. It's close to Dayton, Ohio. And what we do full-time, my wife and I are in network marketing full-time. We're Herbalife distributors. We've been Herbalife distributors for 7 years now, almost 8 years. And we run what's called a nutrition club. So it's called Nice Nutrition here in Enid, Ohio. It's a storefront, like more traditional brick and mortar type business. We run that together. We work out of that together. And then we have a team of other network marketers that have their own locations as well. And we work collaboratively together. So that's what we do full time. We have 2 kids, Mason, man, he's 12 years old already. And I saw a picture of Mason the other day. I was like, holy crap. But yeah, Mason's 12, Emma's 9, and just growing up real fast, man. So that's what we do full time. We love it. Absolutely love it.
Awesome. So network marketing, so you did mention about, brick and mortar, and that is one thing that a lot of times people don't think of with network marketing. A lot of times I think over the years, there's been a bad stigma with network marketing. And a lot of times, as soon as you hear that, some people are like, oh, I don't want to, pyramid scheme. And, they have their opinions about it. But you talked about, a brick and mortar legit business. How did you guys start? Because that's where you're at now. You said you've been in the business for about 7 going on 8 years. Can you kind of take us back to when Mike and Sammy first, decided to start, like, we're going to get in this network marketing thing? And, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's all Sammy's fault, my wife. If you would have asked me, 7 years ago, if I ever thought I would be full-time network marketing and multi-level marketing, I would have told you you're crazy, because I had my own opinions about it. I had a little bit of experience in network marketing when I was younger, but I wasn't mature enough to really understand what I was doing. But the concept was always interesting to me. But so how we got started with Herbalife and becoming distributors, after a workout at the Salina, Kansas YMCA, I was stretching after a workout, and a guy came up and invited Sammy and I to a shake party, and
Uh-oh.
handed me this bright pink flyer, and I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. And I at the time I was active duty military. That's what took us to Salina, and we were brand new to town. We didn't know anybody, and so Sammy got excited. She's like, you know what? She heard party, and she's like, let's go. And so we go to this shake party, and I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it's on the west side of Salina, and I know it's not one of the nicer hotels in Salina, but we didn't have any better at the time. So we walk in there, and it was a shake party, but there was a total of 6 people, and 4 of them were distributors, and Sadie and I were the only guests to the shake party. But we did. We sampled a couple of shakes. I had a pumpkin spice shake. Sandy had an orange cream, I believe. They were great. I thought it tasted awesome, but I didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Sammy got excited about the product though, because she wanted to lose some weight. She was a stay-at-home mom at the time. So I just supported her in that. She started using the product, got a result on the product. Like it's your typical network marketing story, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But then she was introduced to the distributor side of it. And that's when I was like, you know, you do your thing, I'll support you, but I don't want anything to do with it. I've dabbled in multi-level marketing before. It's just not for me. But she didn't listen to me. she started taking care of customers from across our kitchen table in our little apartment at Chapel Ridge, and bringing complete strangers into our apartment, making them shakes. And I was like, what are you doing? But she started making, an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. Wow. And so that kind of caught my attention, obviously. And then so I got on the product myself, fell in love with the product. And then we were introduced to the Nutrition Club concept. So what that is, it kind of bridges traditional brick and mortar business with multi-level marketing. And I don't know all of the other network marketing companies out there, but I don't think there's any others that allow you to do what we do with the more traditional brick and mortar. And that made real sense to me. So we opened our first location in Salina when I was still active duty. So we opened it. It was me and Sammy, and then just an amazing woman named Bridget. You remember Bridget Stokes? She helped us open that first location, and it just took off from there. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing first. We got some mentorship and just started doing what we were told to do, and instead of trying to figure it out on our own. And then now we've got 9 locations between Kansas and Ohio, and it's awesome, man. It's absolutely amazing. So again, would I ever thought that 7 years ago that it would be a full-time network marketer? What I love about the Nutrition Club model is that people can come into, like, our store is Knights Nutrition. We own it. It's a small business. It's locally owned. And the product line we serve is Herbalife nutrition products. So customers can come in and just get a single serving, and they don't have to sign up for anything. They don't have to any of that stuff. They don't have to have a whole party. They don't have to do any of those things. And not that any of that's bad, but this just, when it was introduced to me, it felt more like normal business.
Yeah.
And then if and when they decide they would like to have product at home, we can help them with that. They can either purchase it at the store and we document the sale, or they can have it shipped directly to their house. There's lots of different ways they can do that. So it's a really cool business model. I think it's ahead of its time. I think a lot of network marketing companies will probably look at what Herbalife's doing and be like, wow, that's really smart.
Yeah. Awesome story, Mike.
Yeah.
I think just looking back on it, it's funny because you talked about how Sammy, she was really gung-ho about it, and it was her that kind of continued to push, and you really didn't want anything to do with it initially, but it was her that continued. And again, it was just an opportunity that kind of presented itself. You said the guy just gave you this pink flyer, and and it's like this little pink flyer started this whole 9 locations. Like, when you really think about that, it's amazing, really. How important is it, do you think it is to, take advantage, or even just the idea of, looking into opportunities? Because I think sometimes people just blow a lot of different things off, and they don't even think twice about it, but you just never know, like, what one opportunity can lead to. Like, what are your thoughts on, opportunities leading to another?
First off, complete kudos to the guy that came up to me, because that takes some bravery, to walk up to a complete stranger and be like, hey, I want to invite you to this. That just takes some confidence, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was scared, because 7 years ago, I wasn't the most approachable guy in the world. So, I'm in the gym with my headphones on, and I'm sure I wasn't the nicest looking guy, but he was brave enough he knew what he had, he understood the value of what he had to offer. And so he came up and offered that to me. And so he didn't pass up that opportunity. And because he didn't, here's another key to that though, he quit. He quit. So, we got started in the business and multi-level marketing, and he quit the business. And so now he's not making any of the residual income off of the 9 locations that he could be making residual income off of.
Wow.
So I was taught by my mentor in our business, a couple of my mentors, that you just don't quit. Like,
yeah.
If you get started and network marketing is not a fit for you, that's one thing. But if you enjoy what you're doing and you love it, but if it just gets difficult and you quit, like the ones that stay are always champions. And no matter what you're doing, whether it's multi-level marketing, whether it's a traditional 9-to-5 job, whatever it is, those who stay are champions. It's just the way it works. And so kudos to him for having the bravery to begin with. But then, man, if he would have had the fortitude to stick around, he'd have a pretty nice royalty check right now.
Man, that brother, it sounds like he's missing out right now. So, man, I love it. You said understand, he understood the value. And I think that's critical for people, like you said, in whatever they're doing, if they're doing network marketing or, on their job, understanding the value, like the value they bring. And I think a lot of times, like with network marketing specific, people, they jump in it for, let's make quick money. They think it's going to be like just hey, how can I get, some fast cash type thing? And they truly don't get invested and understand the value. And then once they understand the value, they're able to then translate that value to others and have that confidence. And again, I think it's, in whatever you're doing, like understand the value behind what you're doing, like understand how you're impacting people. Don't just go to your 9-to-5 job and just say, hey, because that's why people hate their job. That's why, it sucks and it drags, because you really don't see the value. You don't believe in it. So it's tough for you to really convey that to others, but understanding the value, like in what you do, because everything has value, like in some way, shape or form. Like, so I don't care what you do. Like it all has value. Like, again, everybody knows my story. I mean, was at Mickey D's for years, but like, if you're at McDonald's, like you don't understand.
Cliff, I was just getting ready to say that. That was one of the things that was so appealing to me about you when we met, was one, understanding the value that you have and what you can provide to something, whether it's a business or a job or whatever that may be, to a relationship, understanding the value you can provide, but also being grateful and understanding the value that's being provided to you. Because like, I remember when I met you and you were working at McDonald's at the time, and I remember a story you told me that you got sick of waiting on people to come fix your ice cream machine. So you studied the manual on the ice cream machine at McDonald's so that you could fix your own ice cream machine. I'm like, man, this dude's something special. You know what I mean? But that's you, one, knowing the value you can provide, but two, also being grateful for the opportunity you have to make the absolute best out of any situation. Be like, man, I'm going to fix my own damn ice machine.
Exactly. Man. Yes, sir. Man, this is good. So let's jump into some more questions. So what do you think is what do you think people misunderstand about network marketing the most?
I think the biggest misconception with network marketing, I would say there's 3 of them in my opinion. And But I do believe that it's primarily self-imposed by network marketers themselves through the years. I think
Okay.
that I think that people are starting, like you can tell now, I think that network marketing is kind of mainstream enough now that you can kind of tell like if this is a real, someone who considers it a profession versus someone who's just trying to get a quick buck on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I do believe that a lot of the misconceptions are self-imposed by network marketers, whether it's, I'm just a perfect example of myself, like when I first got started, I didn't understand one of the misconceptions in network marketing is you don't make money just by sponsoring people as distributors.
Mm.
There's no money in that. It's a way and so like when I first got started, I was just trying to sponsor people and sponsor people and sponsor people, but I wasn't providing any value to them and really teaching them how to be a good distributor and take good care of their customers. I was just like sponsor next, sponsor next, sponsor next. So that's one. I think that's one misconception is people think that like if a network marketer approaches you about an opportunity, that you think like it triggers this, oh, you're just trying to get me so you can make money. Well, that's not how it works whatsoever. So that's one misconception, I believe. The other one is that it's easy. It is simple. The concepts are very simple, but it's not easy to do what network marketers do because they are putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you get told no more in network marketing than probably any other industry out there. These network marketers just continue to go and go and go. And it does. So I think that people who get started with network marketing think that's going to be easy, but that can also be because network marketers tell people it's easy.
Mm.
I think there should be more transparency with distributors and network marketers and what it really takes to make even an extra $500 to $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Is it simple? Yes, it's simple, but it's not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the third one is just people just like to regurgitate stuff that they hear and they don't really have any understanding of what it really means. Like you mentioned earlier, pyramid scheme, all that kind of stuff. Like people just don't understand. In network marketing, the only way I make money is I make money based off the amount of product volume that I move, whether it's I move it personally or my team of marketers collaboratively, we move it together. I make retail money off of what I move. I make wholesale money off what I move, and I make royalty money off what my team moves. But if there's no product moving and there's no customers being taken care of, there's no money being made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think those are the biggest misconceptions, but I can't let just network marketers be victims and say, well, we're just misunderstood, because I don't think that's completely true. I think it's a lot of it's self-imposed over the years. But I think that's being cleaned up in the industry, to be honest with you, over time.
So a couple things that you had mentioned. So, and when we talk about the whole idea of a pyramid scheme, and I love how you broke down exactly how, saying you have to move product. It's not just based off, people under you and that's how you make money, but you actually have to move product. You have the different avenues, retail, wholesale, like all those different ways. And you have like your royalty. So your team that moves product is also, and people, again, they tend to forget, like, if you're working a job, like you got a boss, like you report to someone who probably makes more money than you, and then they probably report to someone, and then they might report to an owner. So the higher up you get level wise, that person's usually making more, and it's less people. So you might have one and then trickles down to like 3, and then trickles down to, they're responsible for like 30 people now. And that's a pyramid.
Oh, yeah. Oops. People just forget about that. And I'm also coming up on 20 years of military service, and I'm in the Army, and that's one of the biggest pyramid schemes there ever was. Like that rank structure. It's okay. It's really just ignorant. It comes from ignorance, and it comes from just, like I said, regurgitating something without really having a real understanding of it. But there is a difference though, Cliff. And what I love about the opportunity of network marketing is, of course, I told you our sponsor quit, but at one time Sammy and I were making more money than our sponsor, and we were making more money than the guy above him. So even though they were above us in in our pyramid scheme,
Yeah.
I was making more money than either one of them. And of course, then they quit. So
Yes.
that is one beautiful thing about network marketing is that, yes, does that structure work like that? Yes. Do I make royalty off of my team? Of course I do. That's how business works,
Yeah.
But, Jimmy, a guy on my team, he can make more money than me tomorrow if he wants to.
Yeah.
It's all based off the value you provide and how hard you work.
Yeah. I think that's I think that's a beautiful thing with network marketing and just entrepreneur in general, like just that whole idea of not having a cap. Like
Yeah.
you can literally make whatever you want. Like if you have the vision to make, whatever it is, if you put in the work, like again, there is no cap. And like you said, that's one of the big difference, because your traditional 9 to 5, like you will have a cap. Like I don't care how hard you work, there's going to be a cap. Like you're not going to make more than the owner. Like it's just there's going to be a cap. Exactly. That's just the way it is. But I like, you talked about how the need for transparency and how it's not easy. Like it's simple, but it's not easy. And being transparent with people. And I think just with anything, I think that is important, the transparency aspect, and something that, I think about quite a bit, like in today's day and age, like the whole idea of, be your own boss, like that's extremely popular, do your own thing, be an entrepreneur, like all of that stuff. Exactly. All of that stuff is huge, which, don't get me wrong, like I love it. Like I love that idea of, being my own boss and so forth. But I will say that I do believe that not everyone needs to be their own boss, and not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. Now you can have, your job and a side hustle, different things like that. But, I was thinking about this, a few weeks back. But if you can imagine, if everybody was an entrepreneur, like nothing would get done in society. Because as an entrepreneur, like there's certain things that you need. You got to go and get supplies for whatever. Like you got to go to Office Max to, print up flyers, like different things. If everybody was an entrepreneur, there would be nobody to help you at the Office Max. There'd be nobody to help you. Like, just think about it. It'd be everybody's doing their own thing. And so nothing would literally get done. And it's funny when you think about that.
Right. I think it would eventually work itself out, because I'd be like, oh, there's an opportunity. I'm going to start a printing company, but then they would need people to work for them. But I totally get your point, and I agree. Like, having an entrepreneurial spirit isn't for everybody. Yeah. And I'm definitely not one of those multi-level marketers that is a job hater either. Because I see that a lot too. We're like, well, why would you build someone else's dreams instead of building your own? And, there is some truth to that at some level, but there's also a lot of truth to the fact that it's okay to just have a job if that's what you love. And if you love your job and you have purpose in your job, I think where people struggle with the job thing is they settle. So they have no purpose. And I think men struggle with this more than anything right now, is they lack purpose in their life. And any time that I've lacked purpose, even in my 7 years being a multi-level marketer, if I lose my vision, or if I lose some, like, lack purpose in my life, I get really self-destructive. And I think a lot of men are going to go through that. And I think that's the problem with the 9 to 5 job, is that they lack purpose. Now, if you're able to have purpose in your job and have it be, and it is fulfilling for you, and it is something you can be passionate about, then I think a traditional 9 to 5 is amazing. Yeah. Because you can clock in and clock out and leave it, and go home and enjoy your family. There's none of that in entrepreneurial world. You know what I mean? Exactly. So there's perks to both. Yeah. But I agree. It's not for everybody. And multi-level marketing is not for everybody either. Yeah. I think it's an opportunity for anybody, but it's not for everybody. Yeah, exactly, man. Thank you. That is a valid point. Kind of on the same subject, like when we talk about, working a 9 to 5,
And I think so. One of the quotes that I love to live by is, how you do one thing, that's how you do everything, basically. And, I also think when we talk about, finding purpose, I think sometimes people do themselves a disservice because, they may not like the job that they're working, or they may, want to do something else eventually. But in their current situation, what they're currently doing, because it's not what they truly want, like they don't give their all, like they don't do. And so they're thinking that, once I get the thing I'm looking for, then I'm going to give my all. Then I'm going to put my best foot forward. But right now, this isn't really what I want to do. So I'm not really going to, do my best. Like, what's your thoughts on, that people that say, once I get the thing that I'm wanting to do, then I'm going to show you what I'm really capable of. But until then, I'm just going to kind of, do whatever, not really put forth any effort.
Yeah, man, that speaks to me on more levels than you could possibly know. And I'll tell you, even just a month and a half ago, I had a conversation with my mentors about kind of that concept, and something that I'm learning right now from my mentor is the difference between goal consciousness versus growth consciousness. And it's been so life-changing for me, even in the past month and a half, Cliff. And what I mean by that, and this isn't coming from me, this is what I'm learning from my mentor.
So you said goal consciousness versus
growth consciousness.
Okay. Sorry, I'm taking notes.
Well, take notes on this, because this is gold, and this is coming from my mentor, and I'm learning it, and I'm living it right now. And it's such a different way of thinking, especially for a guy that's wired like me. So I've always been very goal conscious. So I set a goal, and I do have the ability to hone in, block everything out, get super focused, and get after that goal. I have that ability inside me. But what I have found, Cliff, I'm 40 years old, and every goal I hit, I'm still not happy. Every goal I hit, I'm still not happy. And I'm not happy in the process of reaching the goal either. And so, I'm having this conversation with my mentor, and that's where the growth consciousness versus goal consciousness concept comes in, because it's okay. And I'm not saying don't set goals. You got to set goals. You got to know where you're going. But the goal can't be the purpose. It is, you have to be willing to grow as a person in order to reach that goal. And I think that that's the problem most people face. And that's the problem I've faced most of my life, is I haven't been willing to be that person that is willing to grow and change. And I just want to stay where I am and be very comfortable there in my comfort zone. I'm not willing to face the things that I know I need to change in my life on a personal level. And so once you're willing to do that, and then you can start growing and changing. And so that growth consciousness will lead to that goal. Because if it's just goal consciousness, if that's all you care about, then it doesn't matter what goal you set. When you hit it, you're not going to be happy, because you're the same unhappy person that just reached another goal.
Yeah.
And so, going back to what you're talking about with the job, once I get this, then I'll give my 100%. It's the same thing. It's because they're not willing to grow as a person.
Yeah.
Because that's a character thing. Like if you're at a job that you hate and you're not putting forth the 100% effort, that's a character thing. That's a growth consciousness thing. You may have that goal up there of, hey, when I get this certain job, then I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to I'm going to be the best employee you've ever seen. Well, that's a character issue that needs to be addressed. And that happens through goal consciousness, not that happens through growth, not through goals, So I'm just now I'm starting to understand that. I've heard it said before, but my mentor is really working with me right now on it, because I've been that guy. Especially in network marketing, there's levels in the marketing plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, once I hit this level, I'll be good. Once I hit this level, I'll be happy. Once I get this, I'll be happy. Once I make this much money a month, I'll be happy. And then you hit it, and you're still not happy, because you didn't change anything about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where it's always character driven. It's always character driven. It's never skill. It's never ability. It's never none of those things. It's always character. And that's what my mentors teach me right now. Man, it's been life-changing for me in about past like month and a half.
Awesome.
If that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, it definitely, like you talk about growth versus goal consciousness. And I think a lot of times, like you said, we can set goals and we can have these different things that, we're trying to accomplish, and we can accomplish them. But I think the one thing about growth is, like, the goals we set are goals that we think of, but when we start working on that growth aspect, I think what growth does is it creates other opportunities. Like it puts us in positions to, sometimes receive things that we didn't even think to put down as a goal. Like, but because we've grown and because we've put forth this growth consciousness, it put us in position to now we're walking in things where it's like we weren't even looking for this, but because you've been growing growing your mindset, growing just that whole character aspect, like it puts you in places that, like, really, some of you, don't deserve to be in, like, but because you're a character, like, and let's just be honest, like some of you, and I talked about it before, like some of you may not be qualified for certain spots, certain positions, certain things, but because that character and you were focused on that whole growth aspect, like all of a sudden you begin to learn how to maneuver, you begin to learn how to think critically, you begin to understand, like, you shouldn't say everything at every time. Like you learn how to have self-control and discipline, because, like, I don't care how much schooling you got, how many degrees you got, like, if you don't have discipline, like you could have been disciplined at school, but when you talk about out here in this world, like whether if it's in the workplace, entrepreneur, like if you don't have discipline, like, I'm sorry, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something that Brad told me when, this was just a couple months ago. And he, because you hear that growth consciousness, you've got to grow as a person, you got to build character. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Where do I even start? How do I even do that?
Break that down for the people.
Yeah. It's like you can read a million books if you want, which is great. But if you're not going to implement any of what you're reading, then it's all useless. And I've been guilty of that for years. I mean, I've been a reader for a very long time. I mean, Cliff, you've known me for years now.
Oh, yeah.
I love to read. You love to read. That was one of the things we connected on. Like, what are you reading? Having those conversations. But I wasn't implementing and changing. And so it's like, okay, how do I start? Where do I even start? And so what Brad asked me, he's like, what are the three main things that are holding you back right now? And so I list out those three things. And then we go into discussion. All of those the three things I listed, well, here's the problem. It's just what I thought the problem was. So then you go like 5 questions deep on that. Okay, tell me a little more about that. Well, I don't have any motivation to do this. Okay, so what does that really mean? And then you talk through it out loud, and then you go like 5 questions deep until you get a character trait. Because again, it's all character based. And so it isn't that your boss isn't giving you the right opportunity. Like, go 5 levels deep in that questioning, and you'll find a character trait that you can develop. And it's like, okay, well, it turns out that discipline is a character trait. I don't have self-discipline. Okay, well, how can I establish self-discipline? Well, there's multiple ways, but let's study self-discipline. So then you can be like, okay, here's some information on self-discipline. Here's podcasts, here's YouTube videos, here's books. And then you can read, you can zero in on that one character trait and start developing it little by little every single day until that, and then you'll start seeing that trait building. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I am disciplined. 30, 60, 90 days in, you've developed that character trait. That's growth. That's growth consciousness, because now you're developing discipline in your life. Like for me, discipline was one of them that I honed in on. Empathy was another one that I honed in on. And, and then being able to identify those character traits, and it's uncomfortable, and it's being vulnerable, not just with yourself, but whoever you're in accountability with in your life. And then honing in on those and working on those traits. that's how you get started in growth consciousness
Mm.
and just, building those things day by day. And the goals will come as a result of the character that you're building and the growth that you're having in your life. So that's how you start with
Awesome.
growth, I believe. And it's worked wonders for me, again, just in the short, month and a half that, that concept has really been something in my life, because I've been a reader forever.
Yeah.
Just not an implementer.
See, man, okay, you talking to me now, because man, I've been on this journey like here recently, probably, I mean, really the last few months. I mean, honestly, this has really started since back in October, I believe, when me and my wife went to Chicago and we went to the ET 120 conference. And I mean, that was just life-changing. And the whole idea of just, reading, getting all this information and not doing anything with it, like it can, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you overindulge and it becomes entertainment at a certain point. Like it's no longer about growth, but it's about, and I would personally, maybe look at somebody else negative and say, oh, you're just watching TV all day. You're binge watching Netflix. You need to be growing. Look at me. I'm reading all these books. I'm listening to all these podcasts and all this stuff. But really, when I look back, like it was entertainment. That was my entertainment. Like,
yeah,
yes, it was some good information. And yes, I will say, like, it was helping getting the information in my mind. But then it got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm seeing the same information. Like how much am I going to, like, how many times do I need to see this before I take the action on it? And I've just realized here recently, like, with me launching the business, Cliff Bunville Solutions, and, with the podcast and all these different things, like now I'm at the point where there's not a lot of content that I can consume because I'm too busy creating, like, and I'm just now realizing, like, there's even like podcasts, like there's not a lot like podcasts I can listen to because I'm creating my own, I'm editing, like there's a lot of, so I'm putting in this action and I'm actually doing a lot of the stuff that I've been reading about. And it's now I'm realizing that, like, really you should get to a point where like you can't read as much because you're too busy with the action. And I think when you talk about people that have, become successful, like I think a lot of them, like if you really talk to them, like a lot of them they're busy with the action. So there's a lot of things that they just don't consume. Like you see Gary V, he has tons of content constantly, and people constantly watching his content. How much content do you think he watches?
Right.
I mean, just like he's creating it, but he's not like, is he just scrolling through YouTube throughout the day and just scrolling through different podcasts?
Yeah, I promise you, Gary, he's not watching any reels. I promise you that.
Exactly. So, like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with, like, you got to start somewhere. You got to start the process somewhere, because again, a lot of times, just as humans, we're not, designed to really want, like, we want to be entertained. Like we want the nice, easy, comfort zone. I don't want to really use my mind, like really.
Yeah.
But you got to start putting in some positive information, putting in, like you said, reading books, listening to podcasts. But then there's another level, like, and I think that's what we're getting at. Like, you can't just be consuming and then do nothing with it. Like at some point you have to begin to act, and your actions has to increase. And I believe, this is just me personally, that your consumption has to decrease, like, because we don't have, there's not enough time in the day. And like I said, you still need to do some, consume some, talking with the mentor, different things of that nature, but it can't what's the word I'm looking for? It can't take over your action, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
well, I think the difference, Cliff, is, well, first, give yourself a little credit, because all the content you're creating right now has been planted in your subconscious mind over the years that you've been reading and consuming all of this stuff. So give yourself a little credit there.
Appreciate that.
But I believe what you're saying but there's a difference. I do believe in order for anyone to be able to still be able to be in action and creative mode, they have to still be consuming something, but it's not like you were saying. The distinction is it isn't for entertainment.
Yeah, there we go.
It's intentional consuming of something. Yes. So like it's that growth. So like like for me, it's like I'm working on like my vision and being able to hold a thought long enough for it to be a reality in my life and change how my belief on some different things, like changing my belief in this. And so I'm studying something right now that is specific to that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not just reading I love, like I've read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins probably 6 times because I love that book. And every time I read it, I'm like, this is so amazing. But exactly. So like now when I'm studying, it may not be as like motivating, life-changing, but it's making me grow so that I can continue to be in creation.
Yeah, that's perfect that you said that, because that's exactly so the things that I am watching, I've been studying on like how to grow a podcast, how to run a successful podcast, how to increase, your Facebook, and like YouTube, how to, get more subscribers and how to grow your YouTube channel, because those are the things that I'm doing. Now, there's other things that I would prefer, like you said, to read. There's other things where I'm just like, man, I had, put on in my Amazon cart, like, man, I want to get this book. But again, having that discipline, like, okay, what information do I need to, your point, continue my actions, like, and that's, I think that's, like you said, what it's about. It's, that taking those action steps, but then understanding, okay, I need to consume things that are going to help me take the, specific actions that I'm trying to take now. So awesome. Yeah,
it's good, man. It's good stuff.
So what has been your biggest failure in your journey with network marketing, and what have you learned from that experience?
I've got two of my biggest failures. My 2 biggest failures have been the 2 things that have helped me grow the most as well. My biggest failure early on in my business, and I've gone through spurts where this pops up in my life again because I didn't handle it the first time. And it's my unwillingness to grow and change as a person at my core, at my foundation. I think that to do anything great, you're going to be faced with one of my mentors, Alexis. She told me this was about network marketing specifically, but I think it relates to anything that you're trying to do and anything you're trying to achieve at a high level. It has a way of requiring you to either change in order to go the next level, or quit. Like those are your options, because you're never stagnant in anything that you're doing. You're either growing or you're falling back. You're either moving forward or backward. You're never stagnant. And so, like for me, Herbalife, multiple times in my 7 years, like you hit these crossroads where it's like, okay, I'm at this crossroads. I can either do what I know I need to do. Did I freeze? You still good? Okay.
Oh, we're good.
So sorry about that. You hit this crossroads and you can do one of 2 things. One, I can change and grow and become the person I need to become in order to continue moving forward and achieve that greatness that I'm looking to achieve, or I can quit. Those are my options, because I can't stay where I am. That's just not a thing. It just doesn't happen. So that's one. My unwillingness, my stubbornness, my unwillingness to get out of my comfort zone, my unwillingness to let go of things in my life that weren't serving me. And it pops up in my life numerous times, and you hit that crossroads again. It's like I can either grow and change, or I can quit. And so that's the first one. But that biggest failure has been what's kept me going for 7 years now in our business, because there were times where I wanted to stomp around like a toddler thinking I was going to quit. And then, and I'm like, you know what, no, I'm changing, I'm growing, I'm continuing. So my unwillingness to change, I think has held me back more than anything in my business. The second thing, my biggest failure in network marketing is not cherishing the relationships, not cherishing the people as much in the past as I should have. Because that's what it's all about. In anything you do, it's all about people.
Yeah.
And there were times where I was so focused on a goal, whether it's a money goal, a position goal, that I lost. There were times in my business where I lost sight of the fact that people are more important than anything else. And so I got kind of wonky with that. But what I found is that every time you put people first, you're going to get everything you ever want.
Yeah.
And so that was, for me, the biggest failure. Those are the two: my unwillingness to change myself at times, and then two, not cherishing people the way that I should. Bob Proctor, he talks about money's a tool. And he's like, love people and use money. Don't get those two things, back mixed up. Yeah.
Yep.
Don't love money and use people. Love people and use money. That's a concept, but it's the same kind of thing, like cherishing people and relationships. And especially in network marketing, you can kind of get in that mindset. It's like, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more people, I need more customers, and I'm focused on getting more customers, and I'm not taking good care of the customers I already have.
Yeah.
Or I'm sponsoring new distributors, but I'm not nourishing and helping the distributors on my current team grow. So like really cherishing people and relationships. And that's something that I'm continually working on. Because I think I think if I was to dig deep, there's probably some old wounds somewhere in my life when it comes to relationships. And so I let that surface sometimes and close people out. But something that I've recognized and I'm working on.
Yeah. Well, I definitely commend you on just the whole self-awareness, self-reflection. Like, I think that's key, because you talked about, your unwillingness to grow, but I'm speaking to a man who has grown, like, because to be able to self-reflect the way that you have been, like, you have to be able to grow to get to that point. Like, that's a level of maturity that there's a lot of people that don't have that, like, and it's not an age thing, but again, it's a growth thing. Like, there's people that never learn to, take that responsibility, that, self accountability, understanding that, looking themselves in the mirror and saying, like, what do I need to change? What are the issues with me? Like, and not just surface level, but like really doing the work and going deep. And like you talked about, asking those, those whys, and really asking those questions to really, like, not just stay on the surface, but to really get deep. Like, and I think that's critical for the listeners. Like, you have to do some self-reflection. Like, you have to really dig deep and look yourself in the mirror and say, what is it in me that's holding me back? Because a lot of you are thinking that, it's somebody else. You're thinking that it's outside of your control, and it's not. And that's the point of this whole podcast is, let's move up. Like, it's a declaration, like, let's move up. Like, I want to move up. You need to move up. Like, let's move up, because guess what? You have the ability to move up. It's within your control. It's not outside of your control. It's within. So Mike, I definitely commend you on that. Just having that, awareness to be able to look inside and say, what is it that I need to do to continue to move up and to grow? So thank you for that.
Yeah. So thanks, man. I appreciate that. And that's a continual process too.
Yeah.
And it's like, everything.
Yeah.
Every aspect of your life. Like, and I'm just learning this. I'm 40 years old. I wish I would have been open to this years ago, but I've learned that what I would consider issue in my life is all because of me. All of it. Like, there's not a single thing in my life that's happened negative that was a result of something else. It was all like, if you dig deep and you're truly authentic with yourself, like it's all self-imposed.
Yes.
Whether it's subconsciously you're doing things you don't realize you're doing just because you're in that mode of doing things on it. It's just, I've just learned that. And when things get tough in your life and you're like, man, it's easy to be the victim.
Man.
And, ET talks about a lot of time, all the time, being the victor, not the victim. But that's so true. Like, when you're talking about like we read all that stuff, like if you were to go upstairs right now to my bookshelf, there's books upon books upon books. If you open those books, there's highlights and notes and highlights and notes. And so you hear all these things and they become almost trendy, but they're so true if you would just allow it to be part of your life. Like what ET says about being a victor, not a victim. Everything that's ever happened negative in my life has been self-imposed. Or I didn't take action on something that created it. And as a result of not taking action, it happened to me. So, I mean, I just think that if people were really to be honest with themselves and look in the mirror and say, man, that's on me. And I would put money that everything is your responsibility.
And you're going to get people that are listening, you're going to get people that are watching this, and they're going to be like, well, not everything. And there's some things that, that wasn't me. But I think that, they have to understand that it's not a bad thing to accept responsibility for everything. Honestly, it's probably one of the most freeing things that you'll experience, because when you say everything is on me, everything it's my fault, then you are also saying I have the power to change everything. Nobody else controls me. And that's what a lot of times when you say it's their fault, you're giving your life into the hands of somebody else. Like, and I don't know about you, but I don't want my life to be dictated by somebody else. Like, I'm not going to give you that power over me. And when you say it's your fault, you're literally saying that you control my life. You have the power to do whatever you want and dictate my life. But when you say everything is my responsibility, everything is my fault, you're saying I have the power to dictate my life. So if I want to change something, whatever it is, and I love how you explained that, you may not have caused it, but maybe there was something that, something you didn't do, some action you didn't take that all of a sudden was the consequence of this thing. Like, you really have to, if you're involved, there's some way that you could have altered the situation. And so I think that is just a critical thing. So,
yeah. And, you talk about owning everything, and everything's my responsibility. If you've never read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, it's amazing. Yeah. But that concept of extreme ownership and owning everything, but it also translates into everything is based on that, like taking full responsibility. So, on one side you got, Jocko, who is like as hardcore alpha male as it comes, talking about extreme ownership. And then if you look at the 4 Agreements by, Don Ruiz, he talks about, and that's more like almost like hippy dippy stuff, but it's one of my favorite books. Yeah. He talks about even how you allow someone to affect your feelings. Like, people make you say, well, this person made me mad. No, that person didn't make you anything. Yeah. You chose to respond that way. And the 4 Agreements talks about that, but it's the same concept. Yeah. Success principles never change. Exactly. And so, that's just so important. And it's something I wish I was brave enough to do a long time ago, was to take responsibility for everything in my life instead of playing victim.
Yeah, I had told somebody before, and I'll probably say it again, but again, it's repetition deepens the impression. I talked about how at work, there was one time where, I really was getting stressed or, just kind of down because my energy was being drained because things were kind of chaotic. Things weren't going the way that they should be going. Like, things were just kind of unorganized. And I was just like, based off the DISC assessment, like me, I'm a high D and a high C, and, just unorganized, just chaos drains me. And so, one of my managers was talking to me one day and was just asking me, and she could tell that there was something off with me. And I kind of explained, but, then I had to self-reflect, and I said to myself, like, I can't use that as an excuse. Like, I can't say, this is my personality style. So, because it's chaotic, I'm allowing them to drain my energy. So now I'm going to be less than what I'm capable of being. And I'm like, no, I can't give them that power. Like, that can't be an excuse. Like, I have to take the responsibility and ownership and saying, no, I dictate, like you said, my feelings. I dictate, how I feel at this moment. So if I start feeling that way, mentally, I have to be able to begin to think of, number one, speak to myself, like, positive self-talk. I think that's huge because, we negative self-talk so often. So many people, just talk to themselves just with negative words and negative things. And it's tough, and it keeps a lot of people depressed. It keeps a lot of people like just unwillingness to continue to do what they need to do. But again, I think positive self-talk is important. And that's one thing in that situation where I was just like, no, Cliff, you need and I start talking to I start motivating myself, so
you got to, man. No one else will do it for you.
Exactly. So, man, awesome. So I got just a couple more. We're almost done, but man, I've enjoyed this so much.
Yeah, me too, man. It's just been a conversation, and I know it's a podcast, so you probably got to keep it within a certain time limit, but we could sit here and talk for hours, I think.
I know, definitely. So you've talked about, you've mentioned your mentor, you have multiple mentors. Who are your mentors and why do you look to them as mentors?
So one of the biggest mentors in my life is my dad, Mike Ropp. He lives in Urbana, Ohio, owns a little one-man excavating company. And when it comes to, my dad and I haven't always had the best relationship my entire life. But he has been the person in my life that 100% of the time, from the time I was born until this very second, he's been the one person in my life that has been there 100% of the time, all the time. But he has such an extreme work ethic. He comes from that generation where literally he's worked himself to physical harm. His body aches, he knows nothing but work. And so he's instilled work ethic in me. And he's gotten pretty soft in his old age too. He used to be pretty hard nosed, but he's a big softie now that he's got grandkids and stuff. So he's one. My second mentor is a guy named Brad Harris. And Brad has been, he's been an Herbalife distributor for 30 years, but more than that, he's been mentoring people in life and business for that entire time as well. And I don't know if you've ever read, I'm sure you've read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Man, I couldn't tell you more that Brad Harris is like my rich dad. He's been that for me. And my other mentor in my life is Alexis Pelfrey. And Alexis is in the 7 years that Sammy and I have been doing this business that we do with Herbalife, we've had our ups and downs. Quitting's never been an option for us, but even Alexis and Brad have been that constant in our business, and they've always believed in us more than we believed in ourselves. Always. And they just pour that into us all the time. And, we're getting ready to go spend a weekend with them down in Dallas for a big retreat. So that's going to be really cool. But those three, my dad, Brad Harris, and Alexis Pelfrey. Alexis keeps me connected to my emotional side. And Brad keeps me focused on growth and building a business. Amazing people, all three of them, amazing people. So awesome. Again. But I will say this, I'll tell you this. So I deployed in 2020. I was in Iraq. And when I came home from Iraq at the end of 2020, I went about a year of my life without any accountability. And what I mean by that, every once in a while, a message to Brad or a message to Alexis, hey, how you doing? I was living life outside of accountability. And I'll tell you this, whether it's a mentor, an accountability partner, some sort of authentic relationship,
Yeah.
with people that are willing to call you out on stuff that you need called out on. People that are willing to be brutally honest with you when you need to be, when someone needs to be brutally honest, but people that love you unconditionally as well, like those true, authentic, real relationships in people.
Yeah.
When you're living life outside of accountability, you're never, and I don't know, maybe someone can prove me wrong, but I just firmly believe with every ounce of my being, if you're living life outside of accountability, you're never, ever going to achieve what you're wanting to achieve, ever. And so living life out of accountability is easy, it's comfortable, it's reckless, because you're completely living life on your own terms, and that's no way to live. But getting accountable with somebody, saying, hey, this is the kind of man I want to be, and these are the goals that I have, and this is the kind of business I want to grow, and getting in alignment with someone on that, I think is what most people aren't willing to do. And thank God for Brad and Alexis, because they've done that for us.
That's awesome. It's funny because you say that, and it just, it reminds me as kids, like, we were accountable most times to our parents. And it's funny because as we get older, like we want to break free from that whole accountability. Like we want to do our own thing. And then we become adults and, we're doing our own thing. But a lot of times we're getting into, life isn't going the way we want it because we don't have that structure. And so, like you mentioned, like you spoke about, it's to really be successful. Like you have to have that accountability. You have to be within that accountability. So, and I think it's just funny as kids, we have it and then we want to break free from it. And then at some point we realize like, no, this is what we needed this the whole time.
Yeah. And man, Cliff, there's so much more freedom in a life of accountability than without. And that's almost like, it sounds almost opposite, but that's not true. The truth is there's more freedom living a life of accountability than there ever is in not.
Yeah, I love it. So as we get ready to wrap this up,
okay,
one final question that I want to ask you. So when it's all said and done, when, actually, I got one more after this. Okay. So when it's all said and done and, time has passed, what's one thing that you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as the Ropp that left a legacy. I want to leave a legacy for my family. I want to build a financial bubble around my family. I want more than that, not just the money there, but the mentality of that, the kind of mentality it takes to create that financial bubble. Because even my kids now, like Mason and Emma, they don't know what it's like for dad to have a job. They don't know what it's like to not have flexibility in our lives. So that's the legacy I want to leave is, yes, do I want to leave a bunch of money in my kids? Of course I do. I never want them to have to worry. I don't want them to ever have the financial burdens that I've had in my life, all self-imposed, by the way. I want to create that financial bubble, but more than that, a legacy of man, great grandpa Ropp, he's the one that really started this. That's what I want to be known for, a legacy.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, so here is my last one.
Okay.
So you said 7 years, going on 8, 9 locations. What's your vision for, the next 5, 10 years? Where do you see yourself the next 10 years?
Within the next 10 years, the next milestone for me, as far as goals that we've set, is for storefront locations is 20 locations. But that'll happen way before the next 10 years. So within the next 10 years from now, I see myself being 50 years old, traveling the country and the world, training from stage, and just pouring into people. That's what I want to do. And then continuing helping people get their businesses up and go on and move in. Because that's what I love about what I do. So one thing that I do is I'm a certified personal trainer, and I've learned how to help people get amazing results with the Herbalife product. Most people want to lose weight. I can help you do that like that. I know how to do it. I can do it with my eyes closed. I love doing that for people, but more than that, I love opening their eyes to what's possible with an opportunity. If you see this one opportunity, as a distributor, it costs $100 to get started. That is an opportunity, and you can take that $100 and you can build it to whatever you want. And that's what I love. So 10 years from now, that's what I see myself doing. I don't see myself doing a whole lot different than what I'm doing right now, other than doing some more traveling, because I really do, and have more locations. But yeah, and of course the check's going to be bigger.
Yeah, I know.
that royalty check is going to be massive 10 years from now, and that's going to help me build that financial bubble around my family. You know?
Exactly.
I love that about royalty. I never understood it until I really understood network marketing and building royalties and what that means. And it's such a cool concept. And it's not taking money out of anyone else's pocket. It is simply being rewarded for what you've poured into somebody. And so, like, man, it's just such a cool concept to have royalties. And that check grows month after month after month if you grow month after month. So like day to day, 10 years from now, I don't see myself doing a whole lot different. Just a bigger check.
You heard it here first. Just a bigger check, ladies and gentlemen.
And of course, a betterment evolving, but hey, we're in business to make money. Let's be real. And the impact that's going to have on people's lives. Because the only way for me to do that is to help other people, you know, get connected with their dreams and help other people make money and help people, you know, grow a business. That's the only way to do it. So continuing to pour into people and loving them. And then as a result, it's going to help me get what I want. And that's a beautiful thing. That's another beautiful thing about network marketing that I believe is overlooked because it's cutthroat out in the business world. You know, like, and I'm sure if I was at a job and that I was making as much money as I make right now, I know that would be at the level that's very cutthroat. And my boss, he may value me, but he's not telling me everything he knows. I guarantee that, because I'm a threat to him. You know, with my baby, Brian Harris is pouring everything he's got into me because he wants me to make money for him.
Yeah,
nice. That, you know? Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. This was awesome. So we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Okay, yeah. Oh geez, man, it's been over an hour.
Man, I'm telling you, we can go and go, but man, first of all, like I said, I definitely appreciate you, appreciating your willingness to get on here, to my little old podcast, to share your story and to, you know, to give the listeners some value, some things that they can take away, some things that they can apply. Like, and if you're listening again, there's so many things, like you can rewind this. Like there's so many gems that were dropped in this episode that, like, again, if you go back, there's so many things you can apply, you can take with you, a lot of things for you to help you move up. I mean, we talked about accountability. We talked about discipline, self-awareness. Like we talked about so many different things. And again, you can just, you know, take one thing from this episode and apply it. Like if all you do is take one thing, like that's all we ask is that one thing and apply, because that one thing can change your life and that one thing can help you move up. So, man, Mike, where can they find you? What, you on social media?
Yeah, yep. You can find me. Well, our storefront is Nice Nutrition Enon. If you want to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, you can also find me, Michael Ropp, Ropp MB on Instagram. Would love to connect with some of your listeners. I think that'd be awesome. Man, dude, I appreciate the opportunity to come on this podcast. What a cool experience. Never done it before, but you know what? I just see this growing, Cliff. This podcast for you. I just see it growing. Like I get on Spotify and I see Cliff Bunville's face on my Spotify. Like that's freaking cool because I remember the day you walked into Salina Nutrition when we first met. But I also remember, you know, outside of all of that, like I know your story, Cliff.
Yeah.
Like I know your story, and seeing what you're doing now is just phenomenal. You're going to impact so many people. like when you're telling your story about living in the basement, moving into that basement, and then moving out, man, it's powerful, dude. So keep doing what you're doing, because you're what you're doing for people and moving up. You've done it, and you're continuing to do it. And so, man, if there's anyone to listen to about it, I think it's you. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Proud of you.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Well, that's it. Another episode in the book. Again, we appreciate everybody for listening, for tuning in. And again, this is your opportunity. Like it's time to move up. Like it's time to do something with your life. It's time to take the principles that you have learned in this episode and apply them, because guess what? You don't need to stay where you're at, because there's more in you. Like I know there's more in you, and I know there's more for you to achieve. There's more opportunities for you. So let's move up. Let's move up. Let's move up. We'll catch you on the next one.